Hello you guys and welcome back to my channel. So today, as you can tell by the title, we're doing a completely different kind of video today, okay? So I'm just gonna give this small little disclaimer, rant, whatever. This is my story. I understand that some people's stories are different. However, this is my channel, so I'm sharing with you guys my story. And yeah, somebody's gonna say I didn't subscribe to your channel to hear all this, Tanzania. And I'm gonna say, well, unsubscribe, because the truth is there are certain things that have happened in my life that I know for a fact will benefit other people to know about. And that's what this video is about. This video is to be informative to the young black girl who was myself, who is myself, wanting some information, or just someone wanting information about adoption in general. I can't speak for every black woman. I can't speak for every woman, but I can speak up on the behalf of somebody, and that's my goal today in this video. So this is how I have it set up. I got some food. Now I made this, okay? Let's move that to the side. I made this. Girl, it's supposed to be, I don't know. It was supposed to be African, and then I ended up putting some curry in there. It's just bell peppers and things, if you can see that. And then I have some fufu. I actually ordered this last night with some okra that I got. I ordered 2 of them because I knew I was gonna make this today. So I have this down here. I hope you guys don't mind this type of video. I know it's not my, massage therapy things. It's not about a job. This is completely different. This is you all in my business. And for those people who have come here just to be nosy, I will have a timestamp down below so you can move around if you want to move based off questions. But for the person who is looking to be informed, maybe you are finding yourself in the exact same situation that I was in. So yeah, I have my questions over here. I got my food. I have my wine. And let's get into the video. I'm actually going to try to do this with as much, not cutting out as much as possible. Oh, it's hot. Okay, how did the pregnancy go? The pregnancy went well. I talked to you guys, and I think another video before, saying like I had this hip SPD, symphysis pubis dysfunction, if you're not familiar with it, that caused the pregnancy to be pretty painful. But overall, it was a healthy pregnancy. Everything went according to plan. Was it weird at the doctor's appointments? I remember the doctor asking me, like, so what are we gonna do? Like, I let her know my plans kind of briefly, and she was like, so what are you gonna do? I'm telling you, I was like late. Like, we had already had the C-section scheduled, and she had worked with patients who had adoptions like before, and usually what happens is you have like a caseworker or someone assigned to your case, and then you'll have them with you at the appointments and stuff. So the doctor's office kind of knows what's going on. My case was not like that at all. So the doctor was kind of like, well, what are we going to do? And I was like, don't worry about it. I don't know. And she didn't really banter me, which was a very positive thing for me. So the doctor's appointment, it was kind of weird, but not because the doctor made it weird. Did I do it alone? Yes. Now there are gonna be some stories in here. I don't know how long this video is gonna be. I did do it alone. So I was here in Houston, right? I found out when I was pregnant here in Houston. I was homeless at the time. My son was living with my grandma, with my grandparents. I was homeless. I was staying with my college roommate, and she was like in the middle of putting me out because she had a new boyfriend and she didn't want me there anymore, which I understand. I didn't have a job. And I remember my grandma ended up calling, and she said, is there a baby in the background? And I was like, no. Now at this point, I had already known that I was pregnant. So by her saying that, I just feel like it was the Lord's way of telling me I need to go home. So I went home, and I was like, I knew in my mind, in my heart, that I was going to do adoption by this point. So when I went home and everyone was excited to have like a new baby in the family, it made me very uncomfortable. So I ended up moving where my mom lives, which my mom lives in Georgia. My family lives in Louisiana. My mom lives in Georgia. So I ended up moving to my mom's house because it was a more secluded location and I could be more like secludedly pregnant. Like everybody wouldn't get a chance to see my belly and just kind of experience the pregnancy. I didn't want anyone to get attached. So I didn't allow my mom to go to like doctor's appointments and things like that. I had Medicaid at the time. So I used like their little Star, I don't think it was called Star in Georgia. It was a program that they used to like transport you to and from. So she didn't go to any doctor's appointments. She really didn't drop me off at any doctor's appointment. I just kind of left her out of the loop altogether. I didn't want anybody to get attached. It wasn't me being rude. It was kind of me trying to protect the family. With that, I really didn't include anybody in it. It was my decision. I didn't want any rebuts, so I just did it by myself. Okay. Did anyone go to the appointments? Like I said, no. I was the only one at the appointments. And what did my family say? So my family did not agree. And if I'm completely honest, and I make a separate video about this, but you can tell this is why I'm so passionate about the content that I make about being able to support yourself financially on your own. They basically excommunicated me. They basically like ostracized me. And no one ever said it was because of the adoption, but I know in my heart that it was because of the adoption. Nobody wanted me to do it. And also, everyone wanted me to keep the child with me and suffer. No one wanted me to give the child up for adoption and make a better life for myself. So I didn't get any support. I think a lot of people thought that I would change my mind. But at this point, you gotta remember, I had a child I was a teen mother. Again, I was a teen mother the first time. I had my son when I was 15. I got pregnant when I was 14. I had him when I was 15. So I already knew how this story was gonna go. And I had a vision of my life that it would end up better than it was going. And I knew that they weren't going to help me get to that just by the way that they would treat me and talk to me. So, no one was really on board. And that's a whole separate video. There were so many instances where I thought people were over it and then they kind of like brought it up. They weren't okay with it. And I can understand. I can't really understand because no one was like paying my bills or really involved in my life. They just thought they would have a say so over the whole pregnancy. So that was crazy. Do you tell your story a lot? No. If I'm in a situation like, let's say there was a teen mother struggling with a decision to give her child for adoption, to keep the child, to abort the child, I would share the story. But just to be going off, blabbing my mouth, letting people know I never have done that, I never felt comfortable doing that, and I think it's completely unnecessary. What do you say when people ask how many kids you have? Honestly, I struggled with this a lot in the beginning because I felt like I was doing a disservice to her by not, including her in my day-to-day life. And you can see right here, there's a picture of her right there. There's my son, and then there's my stepdaughter in there. So when someone asks me how many kids I have, I say 3. And I say 3 because I have a stepdaughter who's in that picture, who I help raise. I have a son who I'm raising, and I have a daughter. And I have 2 other stepchildren, but I didn't help raise them. So I usually don't when someone say how many kids you have, they're my bonus kids. I love them too, but I didn't help raise them, so we don't have the same type of relationship. we don't know each other on the same level, if you know what I mean. So I never want to disrespect her mother, the one who actually did raise her, you know, and has had to be there all along with all the ups and downs in her life, and just, you know, for my feelings' sake, just butt in talking about, look at me talking about like, that's my baby. I'm not a type of person. So no, I usually don't. But like I said, if the situation calls for me to recount the story, absolutely. Even for like doctor's visits, like you have to answer that question a lot. How many pregnancies have you had? I said 3. I've had 3 full-term pregnancies. I have 2 children living in a home with me. I don't owe anyone else any explanation. This is really good. Let's see, next. And spicy. What was the gender? The gender was a girl. And I knew there was going to be a girl because if you've ever like had any difficult decision to make, you know how it just seems like there's always a twist in there. You know what I mean? And I knew I already had a son and it would be the ideal situation. So I knew that it was going to be a girl. And the family thought that since it was going to be a girl, I would change my mind and I would want my boy and girl. But I got my stepdaughter before I had Kennedy, my baby girl. I had my stepdaughter, so I was satisfied and say, you know what, got a boy and girl, like God did it in another way. So there's that. How did you choose the agency? Man. So I Googled it. Like I said, the reason why I'm making this video, I've never heard of adoption. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Black people, what they do normally is give their kids to other family members. Nobody does this process. Not very many people. They keep the family kind of like in the loop, really, so that they can have control over the child still. And so the only thing that I had, I'm gonna be honest with you, I went to an abortion clinic and they mentioned adoption. I'm like, that's a thing? I thought it was just white people on TV. I'm just being honest. I'm sorry. Just being honest. That was white people on TV adopting little black kids from Africa. A little black kids from the Philippines and things like that. I didn't know that it was even possible. So when I left that abortion place, and it wasn't really an abortion clinic, it was like a place that disguised itself as an abortion clinic, but really gave out pamphlets for adoption. I didn't end up going with one of the companies that they had. I Googled adoption companies and I found some that was international. The first one that I worked with, if I can go back in my emails, I'll show you guys because I have all the emails. If I can go back in the emails, I'll show you what agency it was. They were really nice to me. They set me up with a family. The family was really nice. They paid for my rides to my doctor's visits. They paid for food. And I know that they were giving the adoption agency quite a bit of money as well. But this family wanted, I guess I can go into this story, even though I don't know if I put it as a question on there. This family wanted a closed adoption. And at the time, I thought it was a great idea. I was like, okay, they had one child already who was a little black boy. It was a white family, which didn't bother me at all. I did love the fact that they had a child already who was also of, you know, my same background. You know what I mean? So, but they said that after I did the adoption, they didn't want to have any contact with me. So what happened was, at the end of the day, when it was time for me to go to Virginia, which is where they were going to pay for me a train to go to Virginia. And they end up not wanting to do it because I didn't tell my family about it. So I never told my family about the adoption. They called the police, had the police in my house looking for a missing child and stuff like this. And that's how they found out about the adoption. But because I was like telling all kind of lies. I was living a foul life, just trying to please other people. And that's really why I'm not really for it. Because I didn't, like I said, no one was paying my bills. No one was helping me out in life. So I really didn't owe it to them. And I didn't owe the stress to myself to lie to them. But I just felt like, you know, I was letting people down. Like I made people sad. And at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. I really don't care. I really don't care because no one else can dictate and determine that in your life aside from you. So don't let anyone else pressure you to make a decision. Like I said, no one ever really had anything good to say to me, but all of a sudden everyone wanted to give their opinions when it was time to talk about this adoption, which was the craziest thing. But that family, they didn't want to work with me because the day of, the lady said, I could never imagine taking a child away from a family and them never know when she is, like them not knowing about it. I don't feel right about that in my heart. And I had to respect her wishes. I remember she told it to me. I was at the hospital getting my TB test after CNA school, a TB skin test, and she told me that. And I said, okay, on to the next opportunity. And I went in an adoption agency before I left Houston. And the lady said, like, oh, now mind you, adoption agencies accept a lot of money from families, undercover, however, they con them out of a lot of money. And most of the time what they'll do is they have to pay for the expenses. They'll pay for the expenses if you're a certain amount of time along. Like they'll pay for your hotels and things like that and food if you're a certain amount of time alone. But what a lot of people do is they scam them and they say, oh, I'm gonna give my baby for adoption, and they change their mind at the last minute. So I was way too early on for them to accept me. They said I had to come in around like 30 something weeks. So the other lady said she didn't want to do it. I called them up and I was like, hey, you know, I have the baby at this point in time. I've already had the baby. Like I said, I was going back and forth in my mind because I wanted to satisfy my family, but in my heart I knew. And it was one day, I remember I was getting ready for go to CNA school, and my grandmother came back in the room. And at this point, I moved from Georgia back to Louisiana to my grandma's house, working my way slowly back to Houston. And she told me, you're not going to ever be on time for anything. You're going to always be late. You got to hurry up. You got 2 kids now that you got to get dressed. Like, just kind of trying to make me feel bad. And something just stirred in my spirit and was like, Tanzania, if you don't do this, you'll never get out of this hole. Or you'll be stuck here. And I don't mean the pregnancy created a hole, but it was a repetition in a cycle that the family had been in. So I said, you know what? Cool. And that day I got on the phone with the people and they were like, we'll get you a train ticket tomorrow. Got her to drop me off the train ticket. At this point, everybody want to know where I'm going, of course. Got her to drop me off at the train station. Went to Houston, straight to adoption agency. They put me up in a hotel room. They had the foster home come and take the baby. They had to do it for like 24 hours just to see how I would do if the baby was away. Everything was fine. And that was it. Okay, let's move along. So to answer the question, working with that agency, both of them were good for me at the time. How was working with the agency? I answered that. Is the adoption open or closed? So initially I wanted to close adoption because I didn't want to keep opening this box of things, you know? The first agency was okay with that. The second agency said, no way. At the end of this, you're going to want this to be open. And they were right in a sense. I wanted it to be open for her, not for me. After I thought about it, I'm like, I would never want someone to think I just dropped them off and left them without getting a chance to ask me the story about what happened. You know, without getting a chance to ask me what my truth is in the whole thing. So I'm glad that it was open. What happens after the adoption is over? I would imagine this is very specific to the agencies. I've heard horror stories. All I can say is pray, ask God for guidance about the right decision to make. But when my adoption was over, they put me up in a hotel, an extended stay, and they said they would pay for 4 months. Well, 6 weeks. They paid for 6 weeks. After that, didn't hear anything from them. So in that 6 weeks time, I know a lot might be going on in your mind. There was a lot going on in my mind, but one thing I knew was, Tanzania, this is your chance to restart your life. This is your time to break the cycle that you started off on this journey to break. So I just did it, man. That's when I got my job at the hotel downtown that really changed my life. It changed the trajectory of my life. So they didn't do much for me. I mean, you have to get like a kitchen serve safe thing. And I did reach out to them, asking them, could they pay for it? And they did pay for it, but they wouldn't give me like clothes or anything else like that. So they only paid for that, and that was it. Does the family keep in touch? I've talked to her birthday was like a few days ago, and I've talked to them then. We usually meet up every year for like Thanksgiving and Christmas, birthdays. But really, I've been there when it wasn't Thanksgiving and Christmas. When I was pregnant with Kennedy, they wanted to like buy me things and just spend time together. We go out to restaurants. We have fun all together. We do keep in touch, but I have heard stories where it doesn't happen. And we don't keep in touch because of the agency. Because for the agency, as I remember, as they told me, they're only required to give you updates for 1 year. And the updates just have to consist of pictures. Pictures and basically like how they're doing. Her mom, she would like, create these little booklets that she got made. She made a whole event for me. I have a little necklace, which, let me go and get it. I want to show you guys it. Hold on. They got me this necklace on our first meetup. There's a picture of she and I in there, and there's little hearts. It's a floating locket that I still have. I don't wear it because one time I wore it at the hotel and I lost it. And then, of course, someone found it, but I didn't want to lose it. So we keep in touch, but the adoption agency, from when I actually met with her and we talked about everything, the adoption agency didn't really do what they were supposed to do as far as giving the information and making sure that we kept in touch. They were really surprised that we did keep in touch and that we have such a good relationship with each other, but they really didn't care, honestly. I think they were really all about the money. Why didn't you choose abortion? I wanted to. Only because I felt it was the easy way out. And I tried to do it to hide so I wouldn't hurt my family's feelings. And really, God just worked it out to where, I had the money to do it. There's just this feeling, kind of like the feeling I had in my tubal ligation story. And if you're watching this because you're thinking about, adoption or something, you definitely should go check out that video. There's just this feeling that comes over me, and I'm like, oh no, this is not the right decision. So I didn't go through with it. Why didn't you choose abortion? I already answered that. What did they say? I don't know what that question is about. Do you talk to the family? I answered that. What if she wants to live with you in the future? So many people ask me this question. Because, so I was sitting on the couch in the adoption office, and the lady said, the best thing that you could do is create a life for yourself that she will understand why it is that you had to leave. And that stuck with me, and I'm literally telling you, like, it transformed my life. It literally transformed my life. So, if she asked to live with me, I would have to ask her mother. I would have to check all things considered. Like, I would have to talk to my husband. I'm not opposed to it, but there's also other people's feelings that are involved that I would make sure it would be okay with that decision. Because at the end of the day, her mother raised her, okay? Her mother raised her, and I don't take anything away from that. So, that's probably the number one question that people ask me. Do you regret your decision? Are you sad? I did not regret my decision. Hold on, my napkin fell. When I was in the hotel room, when they took the baby away, I'm one of those people, I don't really like to cry about things for long. I try to make sound decisions and consult God about things. This is now, before I make decisions. But I'm a person who likes to think deeply about things before I do them. So this wasn't one of those situations. Like, I had to act fast. Like I said, she was 6 months when I placed her for adoption. And it was an everyday for 6 months. Imagine that. For 6 months, thinking that this is not how this story is going to look. Like, you knowing that in the back of your mind and not living out that truth. So, when I went into the hotel room and they took her away to go with the foster family, I was so sad. I was crying. I mean, I was uncontrollably crying. Like, I thought maybe I would have to go to the hospital. It was that bad. The raggedy boyfriend I had at the time, I'm just going to be honest with you, all he wanted to think about was sex. Like, oh, you're not pregnant anymore. You're back in town. And he really couldn't offer. That's how I knew he wasn't it. He couldn't offer me any solace in this situation that I was in. And I remember he left. Oh, Jesus. Don't cry, Tiffany. I remember he left, and I just was like, man, am I going to be crying like this for the rest of my life? And I fell down on my knees. And this was like a little motel. Fell down on my knees. And I said, God. Now, I didn't have the relationship with God that I have now. I've only seen people pray. I only heard people pray. But I'm like, God, if you're real, like, if this is legit, like, if you are who people say that you are, I don't want to cry about this anymore. Like, make this right. And when I tell you, God must have heard, he must have been waiting for me. Like, I felt a presence in that room that has never left me. And I knew at that moment, not only did I make the right decision for me, for her, but I made the right decision for my son, because eventually and very soon he came to live with me. But that decision put my life back on a track. Not even back on the track. That decision made a path for my life that I could have never found. I would have never found it being put down by the words of everyone, like family members. People were supposed to love you day in and day out. I wouldn't have been able to do it. But there was something about this level of strength that, like, I don't know if you ever seen Hercules. When he got up out of the pool and they didn't realize that he was still a god. He hadn't drank all that potion. Man, when I was in that hotel room, I just felt like I'm superhuman. Like, if I can get through this, I can get through anything. And people always, like, compliment on the strength that they see and how don't you let other people bother you and things like that. I have been through some crazy things, hard stuff. You can't, I don't know if words could ever describe what it feels like to carry a child that you know that you are going to place in the arms of someone else. It's a different feeling. Pregnancy is already, you know, a very traumatic experience for the body, for the mind, just on the, you know, on a physiological level, on a hormonal level, it's already a lot. So to add in the fact that, man, I wouldn't even get to see this little girl grow, and I gave her up, not knowing that the story would end up as good as it did. You know, I just trusted that God, like that this that he placed in my heart was right. And I ask you to do the same thing, that if you're watching this video because you don't know which way to lean into God's arms. I want you to lean into the reality that this might be the best thing for you to do. And you've got to silence out the noise. I had no one. And that's probably why I'm so happy, you know. People say, you know, I'm married, I have kids, I have people. But at the end of the day, I realized that your life is just you. Your life is just you. So that's it. I hope this was fun. I hope my smacking, I'll watch it back and see if my smacking was too much, girl. If you guys have any questions, you need any help, especially in this process, please feel free to drop them down below. And if anybody stayed for this whole video and you have nothing to do with adoption, you just being nosy, hey girl, hey. Hello girl, hey. Yeah, like I said, I'm a massage therapist. My channel is about a bunch of things. My channel is really about the perspective of everything that I've been through and how I can, like, there wasn't any hard thing that I had to go through that I didn't think about and say, you know what, man, when I get on the other side of this, I'll be able to teach. I'll be able to teach other people the ways that God has led me. And that's really what it's all about. That's the only thing that's got me through so many things. So you guys see a lot more of these story times, especially as it relates to my young motherhood journey, because man, it's been a long one. Ooh, that burned my eye. Oh, that was spicy. Okay. All right. Oh, it was spicy. That burned my eyes. I barely been drinking this, but it's okay. This food was delicious. It's 12:17. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time.